Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Shark Side webinar. Please just hang for 5 minutes as we let a few people filter in through. If you want to go quickly get your cup of coffee, or if you're in a hot place, get something cold for you for the webinar, and then we will start at 10 past at 2 as we let other people join in. Tasneem, I saw you had a question. Please write it down in the chat and I will respond to you. Okay. Everyone who has just come into the meeting, welcome. We're just quickly waiting for people to come in. I'm sure some people are going to be like 2 minutes, 3 minutes late. So we're going to start at 2:05. So in the meantime, go and grab a glass of water, hot beverage, a cold beverage, whatever you prefer, and we will start at 2:05. Okay, it's 5 past. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time this lovely Wednesday morning. It's pretty sunny here in Cape Town. To join the Sharks Side webinar. Today we have some really cool guests, Issa Saidu and Aditole Adebowale, who are going to be giving us some interesting information on shark and ray consumption in Africa. So how the structure of this webinar will be is that we'll have Isa give his presentation, followed by Aditola. And after that, we'll just have an open Q&A session where you can ask him any questions that you guys would like to ask him. Your mics and your cameras are off. If you do have any questions, please write them in the chat box or in the Q&A, either or, whatever your preference is. Or if you would like to ask a question, but in person, well, live, instead of writing it out, just raise your hand and I'll give you access to the mic, and then you can ask your question. But otherwise, we'll start. So in the meantime, Isa, please share your screen and I will give an introduction of Isa. So Isa Saidu is a young conservation leader who has a special interest in both marine and freshwater biodiversity conservation. He has completed his Doctor of Philosophy in Wildlife Management at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana. And his dissertation was to provide comprehensive data on Ghanaian shark and ray fauna. Aside from that, Isa is also a member of the IUCN Shark Specialist Group and has contributed to the IUCN reassessment of 28 endemic and near endemic West African sharks and rays. He has contributed significant information and served as an expert reviewer for the listing of the East Atlantic guitarfish in CITES Appendix 2. He is also a member of the Gulf of Guinea Network of Sharks and Ray Conservation and a member of the IUCN Freshwater Fish Specialist Group. So clearly, Isa knows all things shark and ray because it seems like it has been his life. So, Isa, we are going to give the stage to you. And yeah, all the best.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. Except to add that I am the co-founder of Aqualife Conservancy. And at Aqualife Conservancy, we are currently spearheading conservation of sharks, rays, and other marine megafauna. That's our current job right now. So this presentation, this topic actually dovetail our work, and some of our key findings will actually be presented during this presentation. So that much I do. Let me quickly move to the presentation. But before I dive deeper into the shark consumption pattern and trade dynamics, I would like to touch on the importance of sharks. And you all know, I know that we are all shark enthusiasts, and we all know the contribution of sharks to the marine ecosystem as well as the culture, the income. So the marine ecosystem, sharks actually serve as keystone species, and the keystone species here means they define the entire marine ecosystem. So they serve as predators in the marine environment, and through their predation, they are able to control the population of certain species from growing exponentially. And the cultural significance also is also part of the sharks. For example, in Ghana, in the Volta region of Ghana, in the olden days, the fins of certain shark species
Okay, it seems we might have lost Isa a little for a second. Let's just give him a few seconds for his network to get better. Otherwise, please don't forget to use the chat box or the Q&A feature for any questions you might have. Okay. As we know, network issues. We'll just wait for Isa to come back. I'm sure he's figured out that he was glitching a little bit, and Teams might have actually booted him out. So let's wait for him. But then if Isa is still having those issues, we'll then just swap it around, and then Adetola, you can start first, and then Isa can do his presentation as well. So let's just give him a moment. Apologies for that, everyone. Yeah, we live in the technological age. As much as we can connect from different areas at the same time, it does have its limitations, and we all know network is one of those. Okay, we'll give Isa a few seconds. It would be very cool to know who has joined us. So please give us a nice introduction of who you are in the chat section so we know who you are, who you work for, where you're from, and maybe what caught your interest about this webinar.
Yeah, hello.
Hi,
Yeah,
Isa.
sorry, there was a total blackout in in my region, and uh, unfortunately, I lost the feedback.
It's okay. We completely understand. We've just been asking everyone to introduce themselves. But if it's comfortable with both of you and Aditola, let's go ahead with Aditola so that you can just recenter yourself.
No,
I
I
can
think I have
understand
to.
that.
I have to do it.
Yes.
I don't know what will happen next. That's the
Okay,
problem. For
okay,
the past 1 month, we've been
okay.
experiencing intermittent power supply. So the
Oh
light just
gosh.
goes off and on, off and off.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah. In South Africa, we call that load shedding. Um,
exactly. We also experience a similar thing now.
Yes, we also experience a very similar thing. So I think every South African on this webinar can definitely sympathize with you with regards to that. But I think since it seems like yours isn't really scheduled, I think that can just be like whenever they want to and you figure it out. But
Exactly.
thank you for still going ahead with the webinar. Yeah, you can take the stage whenever you are ready to.
Okay, so I'm ready. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let me go. So I was actually trying to introduce the importance of sharks to the marine ecosystem as well as the livelihoods of certain coastal communities and people. And we all know that they serve as keystone species, and keystone species means they define the entire ecosystem. So they serve as predators in the marine ecosystem, which support the population, which actually control the population of certain species from growing disproportionately. So for the cultural value, as I indicated earlier in the presentation, they play significant role in the culture of many people, of many communities as well. In Ghana, for example, in the Volta region, sharks in the olden days, the fins of sharks were actually displayed in homes of many communities in the Volta region as a spiritual support to protect them from bad spirits. So species such as the mako sharks, the hammerhead sharks, and the sawfish, the fins of all these species were displayed in homes to prevent bad spirits.
Oh wow, as he was getting into the really juicy part of just sharks being displayed in homes, to ward off bad spirits. I think that's very, very interesting. Um, I think he might get kicked out again. So what I will do is, Aditoli, please take the stage. I'm just gonna mute Isa, and yeah, just let him recenter himself a little bit while he tries to figure out, yeah, the issues that he's having with the intermittent electricity. So please share your screen with us.
Okay. Um, um,
Apologies, one.
I don't know. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can
Okay.
see your screen.
Okay.
Okay, amazing. You can start.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jamila. Thank you for inviting me for this webinar. I'm really honored to be here, and I'm really glad. And my name is Aditola Adibwale. I'm a master student on the Institute of Environmental Sciences, RPTU Kaiserslautern, Landau in Germany. I recently completed a master's at the University of Cape Town, in South Africa, like 1 or 2 years, 1.5 years ago. Let me just put it like that. So, and I'm not really like a shark expert, but I have done something in that regard, and I focus more on aquatic pollution, where we look at chemical contaminants in aquatic systems. So, to start my presentation, I would like to want us to understand what is really happening, what's the hidden crisis, what is happening to shark and ray out there. And my presentation is not only focused on Africa, it's focused on like global consumption of this species. Then maybe we can zoom in to look at what are the African countries doing. So to start with, this is some sentences from a publication by the World Wildlife organization in 2021, where it says that up to 100 million of shark and ray are killed each year, and some population have declined by more than 95%. Today, 36% of the more than 1,200 non-shark and ray species are threatened with extinction. So I want everyone to have this at the back.
Sorry, Aditola. We can see your presenter mode. We can see both the screen, the big one and the small one.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Maybe I can just take that out. Then, okay. What about now?
Yes, perfect. Yes,
Okay,
that
okay,
is
yeah.
good.
Okay, thank you. So I want everyone to have this quote at the back of their mind to continue this presentation. So now let's look at the global trade value. Let's look at how lucrative is this business. So from the period of 2012 to 2019, the total value of shark and ray trade exceed about $4 billion. And since then, we've had annual global trade of about 1 billion US dollars. And shark and ray itself is priced about, the industry is priced to about 2.6 billion US dollars. So we know that this is a very lucrative business. And what are the which countries are the key players in this industry? Which countries really dominate the import and export of shark and ray trade? So we have countries, most especially in the European Union, like Spain and Portugal, and for exporting of those species, and for importing this species, we have also, Spain, we have Italy, we have Brazil, and the European Union countries account for about 22% of the global shark meat trade. So African countries are not really, at the forefront of this industry, and contrary to popular belief that most of these species are consumed in the Asian countries like Hong Kong, India, Sri Lanka. So yes, they are doing that as well, but the big players are actually the European Union countries. And like you said, we have Namibia as well in the list. So for the race, we have a country like Sierra Leone that represent Africa. We have Ghana as well that do a lot of importing and maybe export of this species as well. And for fin, the fin itself, the global shark fin trade itself is priced at about 1.5 billion US dollars. So we know that this is a very, lucrative and very, very juicy maybe industry that makes a lot of people to, invest in it. So now I would like to talk about what is driving consumption. Why are people even consuming sharks in the first place? And one of the reasons of the drivers is that for cultural and tourism demand. So in places like Goa in India, Sri Lanka, there is high demand for shark fin soup, which are used for cultural events like weddings, like traditional events. So there is high demand for this delicacy. Also for tourism purposes, a lot of tourists from Russia, EU, UK. So when they go to India or all these Asian countries, they request for this delicacy, and the restaurants readily provide it because they get a lot of monetary value from it. So this is shark fin soup. Delicacy is one of the main driver of the consumption of sharks and rain. And the second driver is shark mislabeling. Shark mislabeling is the act of masking shark meat with other names. So names like flakes, whitefish. So they instead of them to label it the right species of shark that the meat was gotten from, they put this kind of generic labels. And we have different names that they use to mask the meat. And even sometimes they use other fish names like swordfish to to mislabel some endangered sharks in the market. And another driver is the high demand of shark liver oil, meat, and others. So shark liver oil has high levels of vitamin A and squalene that are used in sunscreen and skincare products. Also, shark meat is also used in fish meal production as well. So this is also one of the driver of um, the consumption or the harvesting of this species. So the next one is ban on shark finning. Shark finning is the act of cutting shark fins and discarding the carcass in the ocean. So due to a lot of policies and regulation that we have now, fishermen are not allowed to to fin this shark. So what they do instead is to just take the whole shark for consumption or for sales. So that's another driver. Another one is the increasing global international trade. So like I mentioned, the amount of money that is involved in this industry, it is even poised to grow annually. So due to this, a lot of investors, a lot of people are like looking in that direction to maybe go into shark finning or shark consumption or shark harvesting. So, and the last one on my list is declining traditional fisheries. So, as we all know, a global fish catch has been plummeting over the years, and especially in coastal communities whereby they depend solely on fisheries. So, they become more vulnerable and they tend to catch anything that they can. So, when they have like maybe some rays that are even protected or some sharks that are maybe that are protected, they tend to just catch it and they retain it on their ships for consumption purpose or for sales. So now let's look at the threats to shark and ray. So what are the direct threats to this species? So the first one is overfishing. Overfishing is like the main threat. Overfishing is literally the catching or the harvesting of fish more than the regulation or more than what you should catch. So this is like the main issue that is affecting or driving this species to extinction. And overfishing also include bycatch. Bycatch is the accidental catch of this species in maybe trout or gillnet fishery like tuna long lines, whereby you have your tunas and you also have maybe some mako sharks, some soapfin, and some of other ray species as well. So this is like the main threat. The other threat is the IUU fishing, which is the irregular, unreported, and unregulated fishing. This account for about 30% of the total shark and ray catch. And this kind of fishing is illegal because it violates both national and international fishing laws, and it is even very, very um, uh, uh, concerning, because some of this time they catch protected species like the giant manta rays, and the shark finning, like I mentioned the other time, is also one of the direct threats to shark and ray conservation. So this study is done by, I think, a team of the IUCN experts, where they try to confirm that okay, overfishing is indeed the main threat that drives about 1/3 of this species towards extinction. So they did a global assessment in 2014, and they found that about a quarter of all the total chondrochitis species, which include sharks, rays, and the chimeras, they found that about 1/4 of those species are threatened. That was in 2014. They did a reassessment in 2021 to understand how it has fared from that time, and they found now that about 1/3 of these species are now threatened, which is like a 13% negative increase from the previous time. And for race, they found out that about 36% are threatened. And when they look at what are really the causes, what are the factors that are causing this, they found that exploitation, which is overfishing, is like the main threat. It's like the main threats, which other threats like pollution, climate change, and habitat loss and degradation also, play some role. But over exploitation or overfishing is like the main driver of this negative situation that we find. And now I would like to talk about species at risk. So by this I mean example of some species that are currently now, maybe endangered, maybe even extinct. So according to the IUCN, this species, lost shark, is one of the requiem sharks, and I think in 2020 they announced that okay, it is critically endangered or even possibly extinct because we couldn't even find them anymore. A Java stingray, which is stingray, which is a family of the stingray, is now extinct, and the Pondicherry shark as well, which is not critically endangered. So they concluded that overfishing, shark finning, and all of these activities may be, or even shark consumption may be some of the drivers that leads to this situation. So I created this table from some of the papers that I found, and it is interesting to know that the dishes or the meals that we have in different countries could this meals make use of shark meat as part of the ingredient, and some of the shark meat that are used are maybe critically endangered on the IUCN list, or maybe they are vulnerable. Or so, for instance, the Schillerlocken meal here in Germany make use of spiny dogfish, and in this part of the world, this species is under critically endangered, but people still use it, and maybe because of the demand or because of the monetary value they will get from it, so they still use some of this species as well, even in Mozambique and a lot in India, a lot in maybe Ghana as well. They make use of these different species for cooking at homes, and maybe in the next few years we'll be talking about extinction of this species because they are not really looking nice on the IUCN list. So, as we all know, sharks are very, very important. They are key species in the marine ecosystem. My colleague Isa was trying to say some things about how this species, helps in maintaining the function, the proper functioning of the marine ecosystem. They play a huge role in carbon sequestration. They try to control the ocean population. They do a lot of things to maintain, like, let's say, maintain law and order in the marine ecosystem. And we all know that this species, and there are some characteristics like the slow reproduction rate. They take a very long time to attain sexual maturity. Like bronze, great white sharks may take up to like 10 years to attain the age where it can reproduce and all of that. So these species are like, they are caught more, they are harvested more than they even produce. So, and if this continues, it may lead to trophic cascade effect, whereby these important sharks are removed, or maybe have all fished, or go into extinction, and it may lead to, like, a disruption of the marine ecosystem functioning, and ultimately may lead to ecosystem collapse. Earth risk. So this is another aspect. Looking at, we've talked about the conservation side of consuming sharks. What about the earth risk, the potential earth risk side? So sharks have a long lifespan, like I mentioned, and due to this, they tend to bioaccumulate a whole lot of toxic contaminants like mercury, arsenic, and they tend to they bioaccumulate, which is, over time they tend to take more, and biomagnification, which is the increase in this toxic contaminant higher into the food, higher in the food chain or food web. So the higher it's the bigger the fish species like sharks, the more toxins they accumulate in their body. So this is a research that we did in South Africa to look at the accumulation of some of these trace contaminants in bronze whaler sharks, and we found high levels of mercury and arsenic in this species. And this health risk is even more concerning for vulnerable groups. Vulnerable groups, I mean children, the elderly, pregnant women. They are, more sensitive to this health risk. And like I said, mercury, arsenic, long-term accumulation could lead to different kind of cardiovascular or neurological diseases, lung diseases, which are, there have been a lot of research that have, tried to look at the impact, or try to look at the causes or the potential risk that human being can be exposed to when they consume sharks. Also, there is a potential microplastic injection when you consume shark. There have also been a lot of different studies that have looked at the ingestion of microplastics in from it's consuming sharks and rays. So yes, a lot of people, there have been a lot of efforts internationally, locally. There have been a lot of efforts to reduce shark harvesting, shark consumption and raise, such as the site listing, whereby about 150 sharks are listed on this website, and these sharks and rays are prohibited, so you cannot retain them. Even if you catch them as bycatch or anything, you can't retain them. You have to, like, get them back to the ocean. And also we have the development of shark sanctuaries, whereby a lot of countries are banning commercial shark finning in their respective areas. And also we have the FAO International Plan of Action for Sharks, whereby it helps to develop framework to to conserve or to mitigate shark exploitation. So we also have the national regulation, such as the MPOA, which is the National Plan of Action for Shark. For instance, one of the measures in South Africa is to develop a slot limit. A slot limit is to is prohibiting fishermen to retain sharks that are outside the 70 to 130 centimeter range. So sharks in particular that are below 70 centimeter must be returned to the ocean, and sharks that are also above 130 centimeter must be returned, so that we can have a population recycling, and there should be a sustainable conservation of this species. Also, we have the fin attached policy, whereby you cannot fin a shark before you land it, so there must be fins attached to it. Also, we have the traffic 3D shark fin identification, which helps custom services to better identify sharks using their fins. So these are some of the different measures that a lot of countries and regions are putting in place, even bycatch mitigation technologies to reduce the rate of bycatch as well. So on a personal and maybe community level, so we can also do something. And the first thing I thought of is research. We need to do a lot of more research. There are a lot of species out there that there's a lot that we don't have data on their, maybe the population stock, the movement. So we don't know how they are being affected. So we don't have an idea. So a lot of research needs to be done. Also enhancing awareness, such as this webinar series, which is really nice to create or enhance the awareness to people about the state of sharks and rays in our environment. Also, it is not compulsory that people consume sharks. So there are a lot of sustainable alternatives, such as the tuna, the mackerel, and you can get these best choices. They are, even in terms of health risks, they have low levels of this toxic contaminant, unlike maybe sharks. So plastic pollution reduction is also something that we can look at to reduce our plastic pollution in our environment. And MSC certified seafood. So when you go to supermarkets, you see a lot of sometimes you see a lot of fish that have this blue label. So it shows that these fish are sustainably fished, they are sustainably harvested, and their status, their IUCN status is good. So maybe they are least concerned, or maybe at worst, maybe net threatened. So they are better to consume this kind of fish than other species. So in summary, I would like to say that global shark and ray species population declining drastically. They are declining drastically, and overfishing is a major threat to the population, and due to the high demand of shark and ray globally, so this threatens their conservation as well. And shark mislabeling is also a huge challenge, because it predisposes the consumers. They don't know what they are even eating, because they have mislabeled this shark meat. And the long-term consumption, looking at the health risk now, may be deleterious to human health. And we all know that sharks are important keystone marine species, and that the conservation research of this species is very, very crucial. So thank you, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Aditola. That was such an interesting presentation, and just like understand globally where the demand is for shark and ray meat, but also just like the impacts that are on the populations, and just also just like how shark meat is being mislabeled and you never know what you're eating. I think that's a bit sneaky of people, but the fact that they're more aware of that is happening regulations in place and other efforts to ensure that this is not something that is done often. But we shall go to Isa, his presentation. So please save your questions for the end of Isa's presentation. We are tight on time, so our Q&A might be shorter. But yeah, Isa, please take the stage. And your mic is off. Let's see. I might have muted you, Isa. Okay, we can't hear you, Isa.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Sorry for the inconvenience. This has, as I said earlier, this has been a very big challenge for us in the country, and the government is trying to fix it, actually. So you've already introduced me, and that was a very nice introduction. So I don't need to go back and talk about myself, except to add that we are actually working on sharks and rays, and we started our conservation research work on sharks and rays since 2018. And since 2018 till now, we've been able to expand our scope of work by including dolphins, bellfish, and other marine megafauna. So, and screen, okay. So as I was also talking about the importance of sharks and rays, I indicated earlier that sharks actually play a key role in the marine ecosystem as keystone species, which means they define the entire marine ecosystem. So without sharks, the marine ecosystem may not even function because they control the population of certain species from growing disproportionately. And they also play cultural significance in many communities. For example, when we come to the Volta region of Ghana in the olden days, many communities within the Volta region of Ghana actually were displaying the fins of large shark species such as the mako sharks, the hammerhead sharks, the sawfish in their homes just to prevent bad spiritual attack, that is the word. And sharks also contribute significantly to the income and food security of many communities. Now, sharks and rays are providing cash income to many fishers, fishing communities, fish traders, amongst others, as they're able to sell both their fins and their meat for cash income. They also provide protein supplements as a form of protein needs to these communities as well. So having talked about the importance of sharks to the food security and the livelihoods of certain rural communities and fishing communities, as well as certain countries globally, I would like to also talk about the shark and ray meat trade. And this is mostly the food security, the contribution of sharks and ray to food security, to the level of communities, to countries, are mostly done through the shark and ray trade. And interestingly, the total value for shark and ray trade from 2012 to 2019 actually exceeds 4.1 billion US dollars. And this has actually been explained by Adetola. I remember he also made mention of that. But it is interesting to know that the contribution of the meat in terms of value actually far exceeds that of the fins. But interestingly, in West Africa, I've been doing a lot of work, interactions with the fishermen, with the traders, and most of them are actually aware of the global controversy surrounding the fin trade. If you talk about the shark meat trade, they are of the belief that the trade do not actually escalate the population decline, rather the shark finning. That has always been their notion. So the fin trade is quite popular as compared to the meat trade. But through my research, I found out that actually the meat is quite the contribution of the meat in terms of the value is quite higher than that of the fins, and that is alone contributing to higher contributing to the overfishing of these species. And over 100 countries are actively involved in the shark and ray meat trade. And the hotspot of this trade actually happens to be Spain and Portugal. But countries such as Ghana is actually in West Africa is the hotspot area for the meat trade as well as the fin. But interestingly, they are not part of the global network for the shark and ray meat trade as well. So, but when you narrow it down, you're talking about the consumption pattern of the species. Actually, the hotspot of the consumption actually centered in Asia, South America, and West Africa. And in West Africa, Ghana actually is the topmost consumption for shark meat, and this has been a cultural thing. It actually occurred long time ago, the olden days, where our forefathers actually were using the shark meat term as kako in the local parlance in all food, in all delicacies. So having talked about Ghana as the hotspot for shark meat consumption and trade in West Africa, I would like to talk about a case study in the country that I did since the 2020 till now. I would like to talk more about it so that you have a fair idea of how we are actually managing our shark species. But before I dive deeper into the findings.
Sorry, Isa. I don't know if it's just me. Sorry, Isa. So sorry. I'm not sure if it's just me, but I think because there's network issues, you do sound like you are fast forwarded a little bit. So can I
Wow.
just ask that maybe you go back to the previous slide, so that if we couldn't catch anything, that at least we can follow you properly.
Okay, so should I start from here or?
So you were saying, I think the part where I caught is like Ghana is a hotspot for shark and ray meat consumption, and it's something that your forefathers
Oh,
had
okay.
practiced, and then you just
Okay. That's fantastic. Okay, so let me start with the countries which are actively involved in shark meat trade. Yeah. Actually, as I indicated earlier, Spain and Portugal actually happens to be the hotspot for shark and ray meat trade. And interestingly, no Africa countries happens to be included in the hotspot for this trade. There are over 100 countries that are actively involved in the trade. And when I talk about the trade, we talk about trade in terms of the volume, the trade partners, and the Spain and Portugal, US actually dominate in terms of this trade. But when you're talking about the consumption pattern, the hotspot for the consumption of these species are the Asia, the South America, and the West Africa. In the West Africa, Ghana happens to be the topmost consumption in terms of the shark meat. And this has been a cultural thing where our forefathers used to eat shark called kako in our local parlance. They actually use it in all manner of delicacies to prepare stew, soup, to prepare any kind of food. That was what they used to do in the olden days, and our generation have also copied their lifestyle. So in Ghana is the hot spot for shark and ray meat consumption and trade in West Africa. And I will demonstrate that to you during this presentation. So this is a study I actually conducted in Ghana. From 2020 till now, I'm still collecting key baseline information on the species. I'd like to talk about some of the key findings I've gotten so far, but I want to introduce the country and our fisheries activity just to put our finding in the right context and for you to also know the fair idea of how our fisheries activities are. Actually, Ghana happens to be a maritime country in the West Africa sub-region, which is bordered to Burkina Faso in the north, Cote d'Ivoire in the west, Togo in the east, and the Gulf of Guinea in the south. The coastline of Ghana is approximately 550 kilometers, and it is a host to many industrial, semi-industrial, and artisanal fisheries. The artisanal fisheries alone actually contribute to 80% of our total annual fish stock, and this is being operated by over 150,000 fishers along 350 landing beaches. Actually, men are typically into fishing, which means they go to the sea, do the fishing, and bring the catch to the various landing beaches. And there is a taboo that actually prohibits women from going to the sea. So women are not allowed to go to the sea at all. They are rather actively engaged in post-harvesting activities such as fish retailing, fish processing. So having talked about the artisanal fishers and their contribution to the shark to our total annual fish stock, the total annual fish stock actually is fast declining, especially the teleos. There has been a tremendous decline in teleos, the bony fish, and fishermen in response to this decline are now targeting sharks and rays to safeguard their livelihoods. This is having adverse impact on our shark population, and the extinction rates of these species are growing higher. For example, in my study since 2018 till now, I've documented a total of 47 elasmobran species. And after these 47 elasmobran species, close to 80% of them are at a high risk of extinction, listed as vulnerable, endangered, and critically endangered under IUCN Rare List categories. The swordfish is currently extinct in Ghana and across many ranges in West Africa. And African ridgefish, since 2018 till now, I've never spotted the species. I have done extensive interview with fishermen to check the last time the fishermen actually spotted the species, or if the fishermen are catching the species without even our notice. And the last time the finding was very alarming. The last time the fishermen actually spotted African ridgefish was actually in the 2015, which is quite alarming. So that means that many species of sharks and rays are silently going extinct without even us noticing it in our waters and even across many West African regions. Now, the surveillance on the species. Sharks and rays are no longer bycatch in many artisanal fisheries in West Africa and even globally, as compared to the previous years when we all noticed that many of these species are bycatch. They are rather targeted in many artisanal fisheries in Ghana and across many regions in West Africa, because every fisherman, most of the fishermen in Ghana are now switching gears from using their traditional beach seine or pearl seine, and they are now using gill net to target these species to safeguard their livelihoods in the wake of the continued decline of the teleos. And the fishermen using the gill nets all aspire to get shark species, because as a fisherman, if you're able to get a shark, you get double benefit in terms of the sale of the meat and the fins in the international market, helping you to get substantial cash income. So they are targeting the species without any recourse to conservation whatsoever. The third one happens to be a policy framework governing sharks and rays. In Ghana, there's absolutely no policy framework, no policy whatsoever on the species currently. And this is as a result of the lack of key baseline information on the species. So when I started my research and conservation work on 2018, that actually became my major objective. And my major objective was to collect key baseline information on shark fisheries in the country to aid the development of management framework to safeguard the species from the brink of extinction. So actually, we have done extensive work and we published many of these papers in international reputable journals. But for the emphasis of this presentation, I would like to focus specifically on the consumption pattern and the trade dynamics of shark products, specifically on the fins and the meat. So our study, actually, for the first part, we are actually currently focusing on, so far, on 10 different communities. But our first study actually focused on 3 key shark-dominating fishing communities, namely the Azim, the Discover, and the Shamal communities, all located along the west coast of Ghana. And in Ghana, you have 3 coastal regions, namely the East Coast, the Central Coast, and the West Coast. The West Coast actually happens to be the hotspot for shark fisheries. And these 3 communities happens to be located in the west coast of Ghana. And we selected this community because they are well known in terms of the shark fisheries. So we use the convenience sampling scheme to select a total of 58 fishes, and this include both active fishes and retired fishes, and 27 traders as well to collect their local knowledge on shark fisheries. Now we found out that actually for the sources of shark meat, we actually categorize the migration route. Actually, okay, let me add this, that as I said earlier, Ghana, the demand for shark meat is quite high, and resident fishers are unable to meet the demand for the shark meat. So many fishers are now migrating to different communities and to nearby West African countries to target sharks in rays. Once they get them, they process them into dry meat and then they export it back to the country for the local consumption and to supplement the protein needs of the people. So here we actually map the migration route of these fishermen, and we found out that there are 5 key migration routes where sharks and rays are targeted. And these are the West Coast migration. The West Coast migration here, the fishermen from the West Coast actually migrate to the Central Coast to target these species. We also have the Central Coast migration where fishers from the Eastern Coast come to the Central Coast to target sharks and rays. And then we also have the East Coast migration where fishers from the West Coast and the Central Coast come to the East Coast to target these species. And we also have the intra-migration, the intra-regional migration route. The intra-regional migration route is where fishers within the same region, as I indicated earlier, we have 3 major coastal regions, the East Coast, the West Coast, and the Central Coast. So the fishers within the same region, for example, the West Coast, actually, after exploiting their customary fishing grounds, after exploiting it and they're unable to get substantial catch, they move to different communities within the same region to target these species. And we also have the international season migration, where fishers from all these countries, the East Coast, the West Coast, the Central Coast, move to neighboring West Africa countries to target shark species. They have middlemen. After getting them, they sell the species to the middlemen, who then assemble them and then export it to Ghana using the truck. So they go to countries such as Gambia, Liberia, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria to target sharks, and then they export it back to the country. Now, the motivation for catching sharks, when we ask the fishermen what actually motivates them to target sharks or to catch sharks in rays, the sale of the fins, we found out that the sale of the fins and meat and the sources of sustenance, like the protein needs, were the primary reason why most fishermen are targeting sharks or retaining sharks without even releasing them. So sharks, when they are caught and brought to the various landing beaches, their fins are sliced off and then given to the canoe owners, who is responsible for drying and then selling the fins. So after selling the fins, he then used the proceeds to support the canoe business. The fins are sold to the foreign nationals coming from countries such as Mali, Senegal, and Gambia. The meat are processed as dry meat by salting and drying. So after drying them, then they are sliced into smaller pieces and then sold in the local market for local consumption. So the meat in Ghana are not exported, but rather many migrant fishers go to the neighboring West African countries and then bring the meat to supplement our protein demands. Now, the income from shark meat, we ask the fishermen to let us know the percentage of income they actually generate from shark meat. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
we can.
yes,
Oh,
we
okay.
can.
My network is so poor, so I have to keep on asking you whether you are hearing me. Okay. Okay. So we actually asked the fishermen. To let us know the percentage contribution of shark meat trade to their income. And we found out that many of the fishermen and traders actually generated between 80 to 100% of their income from shark meat. And this was more pronounced in Azim and Disc Golf communities, where close to 70% of the fishermen and traders actually generated between 80 to 100% of their income from shark meat. So this should tell you how shark meat are sustaining the livelihoods of many fishermen and traders in these communities. Now, the consumption pattern of shark meat. Here we ask the fishermen to categorize their consumption pattern into often. Often means once or more per week. Sometimes means once or few times per month, and rarely means once or few times per year, and never. So when we ask them to categorize their consumption pattern into these categories, we found out that the consumption of shark meat were actually common among the fishermen and the traders. For example, in the Azim community, all fishermen indicated that they consume sharks often or sometimes. In the Disco community, 65% of the fishers and traders actually consume shark often. And in the Shamal community, nearly 70% also consume shark meat often. So to support the increasing incidence of shark meat consumption in the various fishing communities and how shark meat are supporting the livelihood of many fishermen and traders in this community, a fisher in Azim actually indicated to me that, and I read, "Let me tell you, my son, every fish in the sea is meat, and so are sharks. We eat and sell what our hands possess. We do not have any choice in our consumption because we do not get diverse fish as we used to do in the previous years. Shark and ray meat are increasingly sustaining our homes these days." So as I said earlier, there has been a tremendous decline in tails of bony fishes. So fishermen are not able to get abundance and diversity of fish as they used to do in the previous years. So in response to this ever declining of teleos, the fishermen are now resorted to targeting marine megafauna to support their livelihoods, and the fishermen are trying to re-echo what is actually happening in their fishing communities. So we also wanted to find out the satisfaction level of fishermen and traders with regards to the income they generate from the sale of the shark meat, as well as their livelihood as a whole in fishing. And we found out that 60% of the fishers were actually disgruntled with the income they generate from shark meat. And this was so because for the fishers, they believe that the traders are actually cheating them with the prices they offer to them on the sale of their meat because they believe their work is very hard. They go to the sea and spend days in the sea and bring the meat to the various landing beaches. And therefore, the prices they offer to them does not commiserate with their work, with the nature of their work. And 90% of the traders were also satisfied with their income from shark meat. For the traders, they were very dissatisfied with the income they generate from the shark meat because from them, after getting the shark meat, they rather process them into dry meat, cut them to smaller pieces, and then they sell them in the local market to consumers at a very exorbitant prices. And 75%, 95% of the fishers and traders respectively were satisfied with fishing as their livelihood. So we asked them the reason why they are satisfied. And they indicated to us that that is the only available safety net available to them. And that is the only business or only job opportunity their parents, their siblings, actually their family members actually train them. And therefore they are left with no option but to be satisfied with whatever they get from it. So we also probe further questions and then ask them if there should be a regional ban on the exploitation of shark, or if they should have enough resources like capital to set up something. What would be their preferred alternative livelihood? So many of the fishermen actually indicated to us that snail farming will be their alternative livelihood, and the fish traders also indicated to us that organic soap production can also be their alternative livelihood, and some fishermen also indicate mushroom cultivation as well. And some of them also indicated small business. So the fishermen who were interested in small business define small business as purchasing and selling of men underwears, men clothing, shoes in the local market. The fish traders who were also interested in small business also indicated to us that they will be interested in purchasing and selling food items and other assortment in kiosks when they should get any capital. So for the snail rearing and the organic soap making, we have actually taken an approach to implement or to pilot some with these fishermen and traders in the various communities. So far, we are piloting snail rearing with a total of 30 fishermen in 3 different communities in Western Ghana. And so far, it's proving to be quite feasible. So we want to scale up our snail rearing livelihoods with the fishermen in the near future. The organic soap production too, we are currently piloting with a total of 15 fish traders, and it's also proving to be quite effective. Thank you for your attention. Hello.
Thank you so much, Isa. That was such an interesting presentation. Yeah, like when you were speaking about how the community were dependent on shark and ray meat for their livelihoods, I was wondering what could be their alternative livelihood. And then you mentioned snail farming. Is snail farming something that there's a demand for the community who is buying the snails as well? Yeah, I'm very interested to also know more about that.
Yeah, can you come again because the line actually broke. I couldn't hear the. Is it snail
Oh, yes.
farming? Is snail farming?
Yes. So I just wanted to know who the target audience is for the snails. Is it the community or is it other people that are interested in the snail meat?
Yeah, this is actually at the pilot scale. And so far, we are targeting the fishermen who are targeting sharks and rays. So far, we have identified a total of 30 fishermen, and we are piloting them with them. So the target market for the snail farming is the entire community, and even in Ghana. Because Ghana, we mostly, some especially the elite actually like snails because they deem it to be quite nutritious. So if we are able to scale up at the snail farming, we can easily get markets in Ghana. All works of all community in Ghana actually depend on snail. Sometimes they get the snail from the forest reserves, from the market, and selling them will not be difficult at all.
Wow, amazing. That was a very, very interesting. Thank you once again, Isa and Aditola, for such riveting presentations. We do have a question in the group. Let's start with you, Aditole. Is there a specific shark species that is targeted for consumption, or are we just eating everything?
Okay, so I would say that there are no specific sharks that are really caught for consumption. Like Isa said, one of the main drivers of consumption is the declining fisheries. So, so because of that, they tend to just catch anything and they feed on. However, some countries, let me make an example of South Africa. South Africa has, aside from the bycatch from the tuna longline fisheries, South Africa has like a demersal shark trawl itself that focuses on soup fin and smooth hound sharks. So those ones are like the focus. So when they get it, and the main export market is Hong Kong for that. But in these places where they consume it, like where they eat it, it's basically they don't actually have a preference for which shark, and that is the reason why they mislabel, because most of these sharks that they have on the market, they have in the restaurant, they are protected species. They are species that they shouldn't even be harvested. They are species that are on the site listing. So because they know that okay, they must not be caught with this, then they put different names, then they just mask it so that people don't know that these are so this particular species, maybe a threatened species or a species that is endangered. So, but the only thing that they look out for is most of those people consuming the market and maybe the restaurant, they prefer baby sharks. So when they say baby sharks, it means maybe a mako shark that is not big, that they feel that it is more tasty and it is, more delicious than maybe the big, maybe hammerhead or the ocean white tip. So they tend to favor smaller and juvenile sharks. But in terms of which one they consume everything, I would say.
Yeah, I think I can also add something to what Adotola said. Actually, they consume everything, except that certain species actually have high value as compared to the others. For example, in Ghana, when you talk about the value of species, hammerhead sharks and mako shark actually sells at a very high price as compared to, for example, bull shark and treasure shark. So the value is quite different.
Okay,
Thank you.
very, very interesting. Thank you both. We also have another question for you, Isa from Khaladi, saying with a huge consumption of sharks, is there unreported use of the skin? Have you heard of any stories from the fishermen on what they do with the skin besides the sandpaper option?
So have I heard anything from the fishermen with the skin of sharks?
That's correct. Khaladi, if you would like to if you would like for me to give you access to clarify the question, I'm happy to do that.
I'm getting it. You talk about the
Uh,
skin.
yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think in
But I'll
Ghana,
just yes,
okay,
but
I
I've
think
just gave Khaladi just some access in case there's anything else they might want to add on.
should I go ahead?
Mm,
But I think I've gotten the
mm,
question right.
okay,
Yeah, we're talking about the
okay,
skin.
that's you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think in Ghana and even across West Africa, we mostly focus on only two products of shark. That is the fins and the meat. So the skin as well as the skull and other stuff, we are not interested. Most of the fishermen are not interested. And they even if you ask them the use of the skin, they will not be able to tell you. All that they are interested is to get the fin and the meat. Okay.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. So do they just discard of the skin, and as well as the rest of the shark? Well, not the rest of the shark, because they do use the meat. Do they just discard of the skin because it has such low value in for the fishermen?
No, the skins are not discarded. They actually slice the meat together with the skin.
Mm,
Yeah, so they dry everything.
okay.
Yeah, that's what they do. They dry everything and sell
Okay.
everything. Yeah, and consume everything
Okay.
together with the skin.
Okay. Have you seen in the neighboring coastal countries of Ghana, have you seen any similar practices, but at a smaller scale where shark and ray meat consumption and trade is also part of the local communities' practices?
Have I seen, can you come again? The question was not clear.
Ha- Have
Sorry.
you heard any reports or have you seen in the neighboring coastal communities, also neighboring countries, coastal countries, similar practices with the shark and ray trade in the local fishermen? Yeah, with the local fishermen.
Yeah, so you're talking about the similar countries where the shark and ray meat are traded to the local fishermen.
Yes, have you seen this practice because you spotlighted Ghana? So I just wanted to know the other coastal communities next to Ghana. Have you seen similar practices or heard of similar practices as well?
Yeah. I recently went to Senegal and spent some time over there. I've been to Benin, and I've also been having interaction with some of the conservationists working on sharks and rays in Ivory Coast and Togo, as well as Nigeria. And I think similar practices in shark and ray actually occur in these countries. Because more often than not, Ghanaians, the migrant fishers from Ghana mostly go to these communities to do the fishing within this country. Because most of the fishermen in Nigeria, in Togo, in Benin, most of them were actually not even interested in shark fishing. So Ghanaians actually went to those communities and then they started targeting the species. So once they got to the species and they were exporting to the country and getting high income, now the resident fishermen in those countries also develop interest in it, and they learn from the Ghanaians to start fishing. Yeah. So they are actually doing similar fishing practices as Ghana because they were trained from Ghana fishermen.
That's very, very interesting. And I know Aditola did mention something about there being adverse health issues and complications from the long-term consumption of shark and ray. Have you shark and ray meat consumption? And I'm wondering within and I don't know if this is something I had missed, but within the Ghanaian community, I know that there's a lot of trade as a way to sustain the communities. But has there been consumption, maybe increased consumption, and have there been any records of decline in health because of that?
Yeah, maybe I should answer that. But okay, so I honestly I'm not really like look to the area, uh maybe to try to know maybe research about health implication maybe in West African countries because I think that most of these they are always on a low scale. And when we say that long-term accumulation, so it is quite hard to to quickly see the consequence of this thing. So it is not that you eat a bush shark today and maybe you have mercury today and you die tomorrow. So it's something that takes a very long time that uh, people need to like observe. And so there have not really been a lot of research on maybe health implication. It's just trying to create the awareness that this could cause this kind of toxic contaminant are in this species because they tend to live for a long time and they've accumulated for a very long time. So it is kind of an awareness for people not to eat on it. But I know that there could have been a lot of research on maybe the global scale, maybe the countries that are really into it and not the local, or maybe not maybe some countries in Africa that are not maybe top 1 to 5 or global on the global list. So I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you definitely have. Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And thank you both for such interesting presentations. I think we've definitely also gotten a broader understanding of where the demand is for shark and meat. And it's not specifically within Africa, it's more European countries and Asian countries as well. But also the people on the ground who are providing the shark and ray meat are from African countries as well. So I think that was very interesting. I'm wondering if there's anyone in the audience who have any questions for Isa and Aditola. If there are no questions, then we can definitely wrap up. Okay. Um, okay, I don't see any questions. I don't see any hands raised. So with that, I'd like to thank the both of you for just taking the time today to inform us and just give us such interesting information on shark and ray meat consumptions, what's happening globally and also what's happening on the continent. I see Anke is typing, so I'll wait a little bit. Okay. It's a thank you. Anke says thank you both for the insights. Yes, to echo that. I think that was just learning so much. And I think also hopefully we get more information and good information that the decline, that there is a decline for the demand of shark and ray meat, especially with all the policies and laws that exist on an international scale. So thank you so much again. And to the participants, thank you all for joining today on a beautiful Wednesday and being so engaging with such cool questions. And we will share this webinar on our YouTube. Once it's ready, it will be on our YouTube, and you can all access it and share it far and wide for those who you think would really benefit from watching this webinar that were not able to attend. Otherwise, thank you once again, and do enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Absolute pleasure.